Hi, everyone, and welcome to our weekly webcast called Chance Talk that Sam Savage and I are doing almost every week. We had a break last couple of weeks because of the Risk Awareness Week, which hopefully many of you have seen, and we're back. Of course, there are some holidays coming up, so we'll change the timing from time to time due to necessity. But other than that, we intend to being live every week to share new stories, new interesting takeaways, and break some more risk management myths. So the first thing I wanted to start with, and by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, say hello in the comments. Say where you're watching from. Don't be shy. This is live. You can immediately throw in a topic that you want to discuss, and maybe we'll cover it today, or maybe we'll cover it next week. So the first thing I wanted to briefly touch upon, Risk Awareness Week. Happened from 17th to 21st of October, but because it is 21st century and it is a virtual conference, all of the workshops are still online. Uh, More than 4,190 people participated in the actual event, but the event is not closed, so you don't have to feel missing out on the action. 43 practical workshops with demonstrations. Sam did a couple of workshops, and a lot of people associated with probabilitymanagement.org did workshops during that week. All of them are available as replays online on the website that you see in front of you. So don't despair, don't miss that, don't waste that opportunity. It's basically a platform, like a library of knowledge that you can rewatch and watch again, and on any device, anytime, whenever. You're waiting for your plane, you're um, you're sitting on the beach on holidays and want to find out more about integrating risk management into decision making. It's all there, it's available. So enjoy. All of the workshops are still online. What about you, Sam? What have you been doing over the last
Oh,
couple of weeks?
well, we I hope to discuss this later in the uh, show here, but our whole raison d'etre at probabilitymanagement.org has the way we describe it has sort of morphed over time. So we started out by saying, we have really invented the Hindu Arabic numerals of uncertainty that let you do arithmetic with uncertainty. And that's easy to explain, hard for anyone to understand it, except maybe for a few mathematicians. And I said, well, wait, maybe it's more like we've done for probability what Edison and Westinghouse did for electricity. The experts generate, you call them the generators. They're the guys who are generating the Monte Carlo trials, and then the rest of the world is using them. Yeah, that's easy to explain, but hard to get people to understand. But I now have kind of settled on what we do. We are ushering in the chance age. And I think it's important to understand what the chance age means. It is a little bit like the electric age. And of course, I've written a book called Chanceification, which is about the probability power grid of the chance age. But to give people a feeling about the chance age, it certainly took new technologies to accomplish. And so let me just say a couple things about the chance age and then give you some more specifics here. I'm not going to talk about the entire movement, but I want to focus on some stuff that Alex and I have not yet talked about, where you'll see how different it is in the chance age. But let's start with this. We are going to redefine probability distribution. I'll bet everyone in your audience has heard the term probability distribution. And here is the definition of probability distribution in the chance age. It is a 9-syllable term that triggers post-traumatic statistics disorder, or PTSD. Well, wait a minute. So what do we use instead? Oh, The single word, chance. That's all you need. Hey, I have studied this stuff. My dad was a statistician. I was a math major. I've studied this stuff. If you know the chance, or if you can estimate the chance that anything you're interested in is greater or less than anything else you're interested in, then you don't need no stinking probability distributions. Okay? Now, a little further definition of the chance age. Of course, it goes back to the flaw of averages. Probably you've all heard about it, right? This is the statistician who drowns in the river that's on average 3 feet deep. But let's dig in and find out how this happened. So the boss said, how deep is the river? And their assistant said, it varies. And the boss said, give me a number. And their assistant said, well, if you need a number, on average it's 3 feet. Okay, so much for the statistician. In the chance age, when the boss says, give me a number, you say, what do you want it to be? Here are your chances. Okay, so probability distribution, a 9-syllable term that triggers PTSD. We're going to talk about some other terms that trigger PTSD and the word you're going to use instead. I want to start with.
Can I make a quick comment on this one? Because this is groundbreaking stuff, and a big difference between the strategy department and the macroeconomics department and the forecasting department and risk professionals. They come up with the kind of baseline forecast, and we don't come up with the forecast. We're always relative to something. We come up with the probability of exceeding or being less than the forecast. And you said the management is always the owner of the forecast, of the promise. Basically, the management makes a promise to the shareholders. And what risk brings to the equation is we can help them understand how likely, what are the chances of meeting that promise.
Exactly. Exactly.
So sorry, I interrupted you.
We can head down that path, but we're not going to. I want to show you an example now that comes from a textbook that I wrote. You should be aware of it. Hold on a sec. It is called Decision Making with Insight. Do not rush out and buy it. The original version came with a CD in the back, and it sold for maybe like $100 or something. Okay, don't do it. The CD is obsolete. Get a used copy for $7 if you want it. But then email us at info@probabilitymanagement.org. Just look up probabilitymanagement.org. Send us an email, and we will send you the latest files. But I'm going to show you an example from this book. Very important example within the chance age that we've not discussed before. And so what I'm going to show you here, let's go to an example that grew out of something that happened in San Jose years ago, but this kind of stuff happens all the time. You get a disease cluster. And people say, we've got some, I'm going to call it some horrible non-contagious disease. Okay? SHND. Maybe some kind of cancer or something, right? And it has a 1% prevalence. A little bigger here. It has a 1% prevalence, and lo and behold, the building, what would happen if this building had 2 or more cases? Now, before we get over to that part of the thing, look at the left side of your screen. Here is the building, and I've simulated the building. I'm going to press the F9 key. Oh, that trial, I'm Monte Carloing now. 10 workers per floor times 25 floors. On that trial, I didn't get any cases, right? Oh, let's crank this up to 50% prevalent. You see how this is working, right? So, all right. Now, let's just go back to its 1% prevalent. We know this. It's some brain cancer, and only 1% of the population gets it. And let's imagine, hold on a second. I think I want to hide some of this. Okay. So, here it is, 1% prevalent, and you would expect, hold on one second, 10 workers, they're 250 people, right? So 250 people, you would expect 2.5 people on average in a building of 250 people to have it, okay? And I've simulated, there it is, it's 2.5. That's your baseline. Suppose 4 people had it. Then a bunch of observers say, oh my God, 4 people had it. There's something wrong with this building. I'm going to quit working in the building because 4 people had it. It means that, okay. The building must be causing the cancer. What is an alternative to the building must be causing the cancer? What would you say, Alex?
That the trial that they are observing is normal and not out of the ordinary.
Right, and that the 4 is above average, but it just happened by chance.
Exactly.
I want to address the question of, did it happen by chance? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And before I get there, let's go back to this guy. Okay. Now, in the Flaw of Averages book, I define red words and green words. The red words, and there's a red word, green word glossary in the back of the book. And the red words are written in Dracula font because they're scary and they trigger PTSD. So,
but
the green word.
Let me just quickly add here,
Yeah.
because I hope the listeners realize how super important it is, because the PTSD is not only for risk managers and insurance people and statisticians. It's the executives. Whenever you bring something, the result of your risk analysis or your approach, or you're trying to sell this new way of thinking to your executives, red words basically block your chances of ever being successful. So you have to be very, very careful.
Absolutely, they do, and in fact, I think this is the most important aspect of doing what Alex and I do, is avoiding even a hint of the red words. So the green word or a green phrase is something that will not trigger PTSD. Okay. So let's see. How big a live audience do we have out there? It doesn't matter if they're live or not, because this is going to be a thought experiment. If you're watching this or watching the recording, you're muted, Alex. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, no, sorry. I was saying I'm seeing about 20.
Excellent. Okay. So ask yourselves this, whether it's live or recorded. What is the red word for did it happen by chance? Here it comes. Hypothesis testing in red Dracula font. That's what we're talking about. So we're going to test the hypothesis that it just happened by chance. Let's go back to our building.
Yeah. Although I do have to be honest here, whenever I am presenting something, an approach or already a result of some risk analysis, and I want people to just kind of quickly accept it and move on because there's no fork in the road. I already know that it gives us the right answer. I would sometimes use the red words just so it triggers people and they just go like yes, 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 whatever, and move on quickly.
Well, you're allowed to add it once you explain what it is.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I do too. I'll say, did it happen by chance? Oh, and by the way, you saw this and freaked out about it in your stats class when they call it hypothesis testing. That's what we're doing. It's part of statistics. By the way, there's some flaws in it, which we can get to in a minute, and I think we will because it's important to understand the flaws, but it is established science. Okay? All right. So what I'm going to do, I want to know if it happened by chance. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simulate a whole bunch of times. So there's a 1% chance. Oh, we had 3 simulated this time. Let me click again. We had 5. Ooh, okay. Oh, and by the way, what I want to know is what's the chance that it's greater than or equal to 4 people? I'm going to put 4 in here. And then, if it is greater than 4, this cell is going to equal 1. Let's try it a few times. Oh, there, it was equal to 4. That cell equals 1. So now I simulate it. Let me see how many times. Oh, 10,000 times. That ought to be enough.
Totally.
So I simulate 10,000 times. If we look at this distribution right here, that is the actual number of people infected. And another red word is, that's a binomial distribution. So the probability is 1%. You draw 250 trials of that thing, right? And so now what we do is we have these 10,000 zeros or ones. They appear in the simulation over here. So what you see are really the 2 columns. Here's the number of people, number of cases in the building, and then here's, was it greater than or equal to 4? Now, it should be quite obvious. I have 10,000 zeros or ones. If I just add up all the ones and divide by 10,000, that's the chance of having 4 or more. But of course, adding up all 10,000 and adding them all up and dividing by 10,000 is just the average. And so the average of this indicator is the chance, right? It is the probability that it happened by chance. Now, the word indicator is a nice one. It's used in simulation all the time. It means something that is either 0 or 1 if you're trying to track events, okay? Now, notice this. The probability that this happened by chance is 23.8%. And now let me show you. I say, ooh, that's pretty rare. No, it's not. For gosh sakes. What if the building was in a city of 10 such buildings? It would be extremely unlikely to have, fewer than 4 people in all of the buildings. My gosh, there's a 23% chance that any building has more than this. I mean, by the time you get to 4 buildings, it's almost like a foregone conclusion, right? Okay. Now let's look again at what's going on in this little model. And by the way, so this is one of the models that comes with the book, which I say you can buy used. Do not buy it new with a CD. So anyway, the simulated cases in the building is the sum of the building. What does that mean? Well, I look at any given cell. So in case RAND is less than the prevalence number, the 1%, you get a 1, otherwise you get a blank, right? And then I made the cells narrow enough so you don't see a 1 in there. You see a pound sign just because of the formatting, all right? That is your model. Oh, but now let's look at this. 4 people, no big deal. Now, let's just say this. I come in and I'm frantic. Oh my God, we had 4 people and the building is sick, I'm quitting. And Alex says, don't get bent out of shape. It just happened by chance. Alex's statement has a statistical jargony word. So I'm going to call it the devil's advocate position. The devil's advocate says, baloney, it had nothing to do with this, it just happened, right? And the red word for Alex's position, don't get bent out of shape, is the null hypothesis. Okay? Null. By the way, let's see. Hypothesis testing. That's like 6-syllable word that triggers PTSD. Null hypothesis. That's a 4-syllable word that triggers PTSD. Okay. It means the devil's advocate's position. Now, I want to go back over here. And I'm telling you, if it's 24%, and the city is San Jose, and it's got like 20 buildings like that, there's no way we're gonna tear that building down. Okay, slightly different case, only slightly different. All 4 cases happened on 1 floor. Doesn't matter which floor. I'm going to replace the whole building. Oh, and the building, just so you see for you Excel users, building, oh, that's the whole range there, right? But I'm going to go back to, instead of the whole building, I'm going to pick a single floor. There we go. Uh-oh. 0%? Hold on, I need more decimal places here. I need more decimal places. It can't be 0. Oh my gosh. Like, that could not happen. Well, okay. What if it was greater than 3 on a single floor? Oh, I've got to reduce the decimal places now.
While you're
Oh,
doing
there we
this, I just
go.
yeah, hold on. Yeah.
Okay. So 3 on a single floor. Now we're talking. Oh yeah, it could have happened by chance. Let me see. What is that? Is that a? That's a hundredth of a
100%.
percent.
Yeah. Highly unlikely.
Yeah. Now, oh, next little lesson. Here's the probability. The probability that it could have happened by chance. Let's go back to our red word, green word deal. So, probability that happened by chance. And the red word is p-value. Ta-da! Now, first thing to say is this goes back to really the dawn of modern statistics, and it has one tremendous flaw. First of all, I do think it can be compelling in the right place, for sure. I mean, yeah. We know the prevalence is 1% because we've got the whole country and that 1% get it. And now 3 people got it on a single floor. Oh my God. No, there is something wrong here, guys. I think it's very, there's only one chance. So hold on. See, that's 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000. But is that like 1 in 10,000? There's one chance in 10,000 we're going to get that many, or whatever it is. Okay, so here's what's wrong with this. And where you see it most commonly is in things like drug testing. All right? So a p-value of 5%, that is 1 chance in 20, is often used to say, is the drug effective or not? Okay? Good. So we only release drugs where the p-value is 5% or less. 5% chance or less, 5% probability or less that it happened by chance. Right. Our company produces 100 drugs a year. And guess what? We release 5 every year. You see the fallacy here? If the drugs were all placebos, then 5 a year would pass the p-value test. And this is a serious problem. So I think I will leave the discussion here of this topic behind us now, but it is so important. I've got other examples in the book, and it is a useful, this approach, but don't take it too far, and you really need to be aware of where you are taking it too far.
I do want to bring it kind of to even the most basic basic level, because a lot of the things in business, a lot of the theories, a lot of the approaches in business are based on individual experiences from the previous projects or times they've done it. And especially when I was looking after insurance for this, multi-billion-dollar corporation, a lot of the inputs that we received at the time of trying to renew and place different types of insurance was brokers and underwriters and other company perception of what is the right answer. And so there's this tendency in the market, in the industry, to go with something that is accepted as the industry norm because somebody somewhere said that this was kind of expected or preferred, or it worked well for them at some previous stage. And luckily, our team had a lot of mathematicians in it. So for every promise or every suggestion or every assumption that somebody would make, our immediate thinking was, well, what are the chances that they've achieved this result due to just pure luck and coincidence, and it's not actually representative of your industry performance? And so as a general practice, whenever somebody said, this is best practice, this is what we've done, this is what worked really well for us, we would phrase this as a hypothesis, and then we would test it in the market. So we would, for example, somebody said, 5 is better than 10. We said, fine, we believe you, but we're going to go out and price both the 5 option and the 10 option, and then we'll see which one is better, because we don't have to guess and we don't have to rely on your perceptions. We can just actually ask the market, collect numerous quotes, and get them back and say, well, now we can mathematically see that one is better than the other. So the dramatic thing in this whole exercise was that over 2 years we have been testing the hypothesis in at least the insurance business process. 99% of the time, the hypotheses were wrong.
Oh my
All of the
gosh.
promises that the experts brought
Yeah.
to us, and like every time they would say something like, don't do this is bad for business, and like this is bad for you, we say, well, we're not going to believe you, we're going to test different things. And so we A/B tested many things. Like we would give one version of the document to one part of the market, and then the different version of the document to a different part of the market. So we would test like anything we could find, and most of the time all of the promises proved to be completely wrong. And that's one of the reasons why we ended up saving $13 million, because we just didn't believe the best practice. And the same started happening with insurance, because all the vendors were saying, this is a really good product, it helps you separate bad vendors from good vendors. So we back tested it. It actually turned out that they had like a 70% false positive, which was horrible. I mean, it would have costed business billions of dollars if we followed the advice
Yeah.
blindly. So, hypothesis testing is one of the most fundamental things in risk management.
It is. And Alex, I want to continue down this path. We were going to discuss some other stuff. Let's do that next time. And you
Sure.
also mentioned a keyword, write it down, false positives. At first, Alex and I were thinking, well, can we do this every week? Yeah. we are learning stuff at a faster rate. If we do it every week and live forever, we're not going to run out of stuff to say on this subject, especially as the world adopts the chance age. Okay. So I want to tell a story now. We can stop sharing. This is a blood curdling story about medical hypothesis testing. All right. I heard this on Radio Lab, which is an NPR radio show in the U.S., which you can look up. Okay, so here is the story. This was at the beginning of the 20th century, and sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, people had clearly discovered, and they were concerned about it. And so they were doing, it means these babies, perfectly healthy babies, don't wake up in the morning. They suddenly die in their cribs. And the doctors were doing autopsies on the babies. And the doctors discovered that the babies had swollen thalamus glands. It's either thalamus or thymus. I think it's thalamus. I think the thalamus gland is in the throat. You can Google it. Where is the thalamus gland? It's the one that's in your throat. Okay? These babies appear to have swollen thalamus glands. And so the doctor said, oh my God, this is squeezing off their airways and they're suffocating. And it was beginning of the 20th century. And the doctor said, we know what to do. We've got this great new tool in medicine called X-ray. And it kills stuff. So we will proactively go in and irradiate everybody's, is it thalamus or thymus? Did you find it?
It is thymus.
It's thymus. The thymus gland is in the throat?
Yep. Well, slightly below the throat.
There you go. There you go. Good. We will proactively go in and X-ray everyone's thymus gland to shrink it. And they did. And the X-rays did shrink the thymus glands. They also caused innumerable cases of thyroid cancer.
Yep.
Well, now let's do the full analysis. It turns out that the doctors who identified the swollen thymus glands in the babies had all gone to medical school and performed autopsies on cadavers. It turns out that the people donating their bodies to science for the medical students to do autopsies on were poor people, malnourished people, who unfortunately have shrunken thymus glands. So the baby's thymus glands were normal, not swollen. How about them apples? So think of the incredible tragedies that can occur by doing this stuff wrong. That was horrible. And by the way, that there's this thing that I don't know the green word for it, sample bias. No, I think sample bias is a fine word. You were sampling things and you picked the wrong sample, and that shows up just everywhere. The most famous story about that is the bombers returning from missions in World War II, the Allied bombers, and the bombers were full of bullet holes, and the operations research guys are saying, you know what? We see more bullet holes some places than others. We should armor plate those places to protect the bombers. That, of course, would add weight to the bombers, which could barely get off the ground anyway. And so they're getting ready to put armor plating on the places with all the bullet holes. And actually, my dad during World War II worked at something called the Statistical Research Group out of Columbia University. So I picked this stuff up prenatally, by the way, myself. And there was a statistician there. I don't want to get his name wrong. This was not my dad, someone else, a Hungarian, I believe, who said, well, wait a minute, guys. These are the bombers that came back, for God's sakes. These bullet holes didn't down the airplane. You want to find places where there were no bullet holes, because those are the planes that didn't come back. You want to put armor plating where there were no bullet holes, and that is in fact what they were supposed to do and what they eventually did. So it's not like being off by a factor of 2, it's being off like by a minus sign. So this stuff is tricky. And I'm not saying everybody should be deciding where to put the armor plating on the bullet holes. That's why God gave us statisticians. But there's a lot of stuff in the chance age you can do yourself. And that's what Alex and I are encouraging, is get people more involved in this stuff. Are we getting some comments back?
No, not yet. People are particularly shy today for some reason.
Okay.
Don't be shy. I'm just trying to find the name of the person. I think his last name was Diagoras.
Oh,
Um,
wait a minute. The mathematician.
yeah, the
It might
guy
be.
who
Wait, it might be Hotelling.
Greek poet.
Harold
No,
Hotelling. That's one of the statisticians there.
could be.
Um, but that
Abraham
group.
Abraham Wald
Oh,
took
Wald,
these.
Wald, Wald. I think it's Wald. Abraham
Abraham
Wald.
Wald, yeah,
That's right. Harold Hotelling was also in that group.
yeah,
And
Jewish Hungarian mathematician. So that must be him.
that's the guy. Very funny story about Abraham Wald. So Hungary was officially a combatant of the U.S. during World War II because they were conquered early on, I guess, or something. And so in the statistical research group, because Wald did very important work on sequential analysis, and but he did not have a security clearance because he was from a hostile country. So the story was they couldn't show him classified material, but he was writing the classified material. So one of the leaders of the group said, "Wait, are we supposed to snatch the stuff out of his typewriter and not let him look at it?" I mean, it was ridiculous. Well, very interesting group. I write about this group in the Flaw of Averages book. My dad stood out in this group by not getting a Nobel Prize. There was Milton Friedman, George Stigler, at least one other Nobel Prize winner, very prominent people in this group. And it really, I'm telling you, if you look at World War II, it was won by the mathematicians. You know, you look at Turing and breaking the German code.
Yeah,
Um, I
Enigma it
wonder
was
if
called.
we
Yeah.
know that much mathematics even these days. I think we've forgotten a lot of stuff.
Which, yeah, I mean, raise a very important point because and this is what we've been saying for so long. We don't have to start from scratch. We don't start with a blank piece of paper. A lot of the theories and tools and techniques have been created before and during the Second World War, and all we're trying to do is kind of trying to bring that back because over the years, I think the business side of decision making has been popularized and commercialized in a way that it lost a lot of important things. Like, remember the decision making during the Second World War, and then decision making in a large, Wall Street corporation. We haven't improved. We've downgraded
Yeah.
significantly in terms of quality of decision making. And so what we're trying to do is kind of try and bring some of the techniques that have been popular in 40s, 50s, and 60s back into the decision making.
I want to say just a couple things along those lines.
You froze a bit. While we're waiting for Sam for connection to the restore, um, ask questions in the comments. Sam will probably log off in a few moments, but then I'll stick around and I'll answer some of the questions. And also, you can suggest topics for the conversation for next week if you want. Send any comment to Sam. He's re-entering. Any comments, thoughts, any topics you want us to discuss? I think the key takeaways from today have been whenever we communicate. So ChanceAge is this new evolution in terms of business decision making. When we don't just believe in pick a single scenario, we're actually trying to look at multiple scenarios and trying to analyze the chance of something happening that the management views as their baseline. Management still calculates the baseline. For example, our forecasting department uh, calculated the baseline for the prices, for the foreign exchange, for the inflation, and then we provided them with the volatility, with the range around that baseline, so we can kind of stress test business plans. So risk management is not about forecasting. Risk management is about stress testing existing management forecasts. So that was the key takeaway. ChanceAge, I think we are in it. I'm seeing a lot of large software providers beginning to integrate quantitative capabilities. I'm seeing regulators in Germany, New Zealand, Canada, specifically asking for quantitative risk analysis, finally realizing that qualitative risk analysis is not risk management, it's just astrology. And I think that we are in the beginning of a chance age, and to help us push the companies or lead the companies towards the chance age, the key point that Sam shared today is use the right language. Use the green words instead of the red words because you don't want to scare the executives or just other business managers. And the next point was that there are a lot of techniques and tools that we have in our belt, in our risk management belt, and we've had for decades and decades, since even before the Second World War, that we can and should apply because they have been back tested, they've shown their effectiveness in improving the quality of decision making, and they improve the quality of decision making not just by chance, but actually significantly contributing to the quality. And then Sam wanted to finish off with another important point, but I guess he's having trouble reconnecting. So I guess we'll find out next week. Um, we will find out next week what he wants to share. Yeah. All right. So I shall see you next week together with Sam. If you have any more questions or thoughts, write in the comments. I'll see that. And unless you have any more questions now, then I'll see you next week. And do not forget to watch more workshops at the 2022 Risk Awareness Week because it is an absolutely amazing platform with 43 practical workshops, step-by-step guides, codes, models, samples. You can download a lot of Excels to turn your qualitative risk register into a quantitative risk register. There's a lot of information, practical, physical information that you can download and touch, and you can download slides. And um, paid participants get CPD credits as well that goes towards your certification. So it's a win-win for everyone. Thanks, Jane. And this is we've we've spoken last week. This is a slightly kind of more complicated, advanced conversation. This webcast that Sam and I are doing. But then Risk Awareness Week has a lot of workshops that operate at all different levels of maturity in terms of quantitative risk analysis. So thank you everyone for watching, and we shall see you next week.